Karen's sneer could curdle milk, but her audacity to rent out my lake house. That was a crime scene I stumbled into. It was supposed to be a quiet weekend retreat, not a showdown with a human bulldozer who thought my property was her personal ATM. I'd driven 3 hours from the city, dreaming of the lake's glassy calm, the creak of my dock, and the solitude of my family's old cabin. My lake house wasn't much, just a 2-bedroom cedar shack with a sagging porch and a view that made your heart ache, but it was mine. A sanctuary from the grind. I hadn't been up in months, too buried in work. But when I pulled into the gravel drive that Friday evening, the sight stopped me cold. 2 cars I didn't recognize sat in my driveway. A shiny SUV and a beat-up hatchback. Lights blazed through the windows, and laughter spilled out, loud and wrong, like strangers trampling my memories. I stepped out, keys dangling in my hand, and that's when I saw her, Karen, my neighbor's cousin, waddling across my porch like she owned it. I barely knew her, just enough to dodge her at the annual block party where she'd lecture everyone about her real estate savvy while spilling wine on her too tight blouse. She was a walking caricature, loud, entitled, with a face pinched into a permanent scowl, as if the world owed her a favor. Her hair was a brassy blonde mess, and her voice carried like a foghorn. "You're late." She barked at me, not even blinking, as if I were the intruder. "Late," I said, my voice sharp enough to cut glass. "This is my house. Karen, what the hell are you doing here?" She planted her hands on her hips, her chins wobbling as she scoffed. "Oh, relax, Mark. I'm just helping you out." This place was sitting empty, wasting potential. I listed it online. Got some renters. You should be thanking me. The air felt like it had been sucked out of the world. Thanking her for renting out my property without a word. My blood boiled. But before I could fire back, a young couple emerged from the house, looking confused. The guy, wiry with a nervous smile, held a beer. The woman, clutching a phone, frowned at Karen. "Is there a problem?" she asked, glancing between us. "Yeah," I said, stepping forward. "You're in my house. Who are you?" Karen cut in, her voice dripping with condescension. "Mark, don't make a scene. These nice people paid good money for a weekend getaway. I handled everything, listing, booking, even cleaned the place up. You're welcome." The couple exchanged uneasy looks. The guy, Tom, he later introduced himself, spoke up. "We booked through an app. Paid her $800 for the weekend. She said she was the property manager." Property manager. I laughed. A bitter, jagged sound. "She's not my manager. She's not even my neighbor. She's a squatter with a side hustle." Karen's face turned beet red, but she doubled down, pointing a manicured finger at me. "You're being dramatic. This place is a dump. Mark, I'm doing you a favor, turning it into a revenue stream. You think you're too good for my help." The audacity hit me like a slap. My lake house wasn't a dump. It was where my dad taught me to fish, where my sister and I spent summers arguing over board games, where I scattered my mom's ashes by the water. It was sacred, and Karen had turned it into her personal piggy bank. I pulled out my phone, hands shaking, and called my neighbor, Steve, who lived a mile down the road. He'd known Karen her whole life and warned me she was trouble. Always scheming, always cutting corners. Steve arrived 10 minutes later, his pickup kicking up dust. He was a burly guy, usually calm, but when he saw Karen on my porch, his jaw tightened. "Karen, What did you do now? He growled. She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms. Oh, great. The cavalry. Steve, tell your friend here to chill. I'm making him money. You're committing fraud. I snapped. You forged my name on a listing, took money, and let strangers into my home. That's not a favor, that's a felony. The word felony made the renters flinch. Tom set his beer down, his face paling. We didn't know, he said. She showed us a contract. Said it was all legit. Contract. I turned to Karen, who suddenly found the porch floor fascinating. Show me. She stammered, fishing her phone from her purse. But her hands fumbled. It's, on the app. You don't need to see it. Oh, I do. I stepped closer, towering over her. And so will the police. The mention of cops flipped a switch. Karen's bravado cracked, and she started babbling. You're blowing this out of proportion. I was going to split the money with you. Mark. 50-50. Fair and square. Fair. I shouted. You broke into my house, lied to these people, and pocketed their cash. There's nothing fair about you. Steve stepped in, his voice low but firm. Karen, you've pulled some stunts. But this, you're done. Get your stuff and go. The renters, now fully spooked, grabbed their bags and apologized profusely. Tom offered to show me the payment confirmation on his phone, $800 wired to a bank account under Karen's name. That was the moment it clicked. This wasn't just a scam. It was wire fraud. She'd used electronic payments to deceive people, crossing state lines since the renters were from out of town. I wasn't just angry, I was ready to bury her. I called the sheriff's department while Karen stood there, sweating, her earlier smugness gone. She tried to bolt when the deputy's cruiser pulled up, but Steve blocked her path, shaking his head like a disappointed parent. The deputy, a no-nonsense woman named Harris, took statements from everyone. Tom and his girlfriend were shaken but cooperative, showing their booking details and payment records. Karen, meanwhile, spun a pathetic story about helping a neighbor and miscommunication. Harris wasn't buying it. You listed a property you don't own, collected money under false pretenses, and accessed private property without permission, Harris said, cuffing Karen's wrists. That's theft, fraud, and trespassing for starters. We'll let the lawyers sort out the rest. Watching Karen get led to the cruiser, her head bowed, I felt a strange mix of vindication and pity. She wasn't evil, just a walking disaster who thought she could bully her way through life. But actions have consequences, and hers were about to hit hard. The next morning, I drove to the county courthouse and filed a civil suit against Karen for damages, emotional distress, property violation, and the cost of changing every lock on the house. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Carla, dug deeper and found Karen had pulled similar scams before, renting out vacant lots and even a storage unit she claimed was a cozy studio. The wire fraud charge was the kicker, though federal, not just local. Carla estimated Karen could face up to 7 years if convicted, plus fines she'd never be able to pay. Over the next few weeks, the story spread like wildfire. The local paper ran a piece titled, "Lake House Hustle, Neighbor's Scam Sinks Her." And Karen's name became synonymous with small-town infamy. The renters got their money back through their bank, and I made sure they knew I held no grudge. Tom even sent me a case of beer as an apology, which I cracked open on the dock, watching the sunset ripple across the lake. Karen's trial came fast. She pleaded guilty to reduced charges, avoiding prison but getting slammed with restitution and community service. Last I heard, she was cleaning trash off the highway, her brassy hair tied back, her smugness replaced by a tired, defeated slump. The lake house was quiet again. Mine again. But the violation lingered. I installed cameras, a new security system, and a taller fence. But no lock could erase the lesson. Some people think the world is theirs to take, until it takes back. In the end, Karen's greed was her undoing. She didn't just lose money or face, she lost the trust of everyone who'd ever given her a chance. The lake still sparkles. The house still creaks. But now, every time I drive up, I check the driveway twice. Some scars you can't see, but you feel them all the same. The end.